Man, I was thinking about something today, and I always have these epiphanies right before we record. I was just thinking about how things change, right? So, Michael, my brother, and myself used to go to our aunt's house, our aunt Rosalind's, and she would take us to Blockbuster, and we would rent a game console, a couple games, and we used to sit in that basement, stinky and then filthy because no one took a shower for over 24 hours just gaming and just enjoying life and having a blast. And of course, as times have evolved, there was a time where Michael was in one part of the world, my brother was in Indiana, I was in the Middle East, and we still found time to do gaming. And then time evolved again, and then now all three of us have children, responsibilities, spouses, and all these other things. And yes, we do get time to game, we just don't get time to game together, right? But you know what? Those times are going to change real soon because Dead Island 2 is right around the corner. But I'm saying that all to say that this thing hasn't stopped from the time that we were 8, 9 years of age. It's always kept going. It's kind of like the glue that kind of keeps us together sometimes too, when we're trying to escape the real world. But I say that all to say, welcome to episode 32 or 33, excuse me, 33 of the Nation80 podcast. I'm your host, Rod. I'm with my cousin Mike. What's going on, Mike? How you doing?
What's going on, Rodney? Another day, another episode of the Nation80 podcast. Yeah, man, I'm ready to go. Yeah, things have changed, but things haven't changed. You talked about getting ready to hit that Dying Light 2, or not Dying Light, Dead Island. I'm thinking Dying Light because I've been playing that lately. Uh, but yeah, man, ready to get back into some online gaming with the crew, man. Definitely looking forward to that. Real quick, I have been playing Dying Light a lot,
Hmm.
and I just realized that Elias and I are going to try this today. It's become a cross-platform game, and so I'm trying to see if him and I can play together because we have it on the Switch and we also have it on the Steam Deck. And so if the cross-platform is true, Elias might and I might be spending some time hunting down some zombies and hopefully get us warmed up for Dead Island.
Yeah, that'd be dope. That'd be dope. Because Dead Island, I looked at a trailer, a gameplay trailer this past week, and it looks good. I will not deny it. I mean, I don't know about the rest of it as far as the story, the characters, but you know how I've been talking. I could care less. It's just
Hmm.
all about having fun and creative ways of killing zombies. So from what I saw of the trailer, and it looks it's done very well so far. It of course it's always different once it's released because the trailer makes everything look good. We
Hmm.
know that. There's been a couple games. Oh, man, I can't remember the name of that game, but there was a game I remember a couple years ago that came out on the PlayStation that was about two guys. They were robbing banks and something happened. And Mike, you knew I wanted this game so bad, and you were the first one to write me once the reviews came out, and it was getting like 4s and 5s. I can't remember the name of that game. It was these two guys, but it was a interesting game,
Hmm.
and people still say the story was good, but the gaming mechanics of it was horrendous. So it didn't do what it was supposed to do. But Mike, so let's do like we always do to get things started. Let's talk about the things we've been digging. I'm going to start first because I know you've been doing a lot. You've been sending me a lot of texts that I haven't been replying to, but I'm going to go ahead and get started here by just talking about Yakuza. And I haven't played much recently, but if there's one game that I just love having stupid fun in, it's Yakuza. And Michael's putting a bit of footage on a couple episodes and stuff like that. But point blank, Yakuza is based off. There's this guy, and I can't remember his name. It escapes me at the moment, but he is been he has killed. He's accidentally murdered another Yakuza boss, and because of it, he is now almost considered to be one of the most wanted. But also within their organization, there's all type of things going that's amiss, or there's all type of corruption going on. So now it's your mission to go around and you're trying to kind of save the Yakuza family, but also keep people off your back and save your friends. But there's all these other side missions and stuff like that. And the game is based off of a particular portion of Japan where it's, I guess you can call it like an entertainment district. When I say entertainment district, I'm talking about like your juicy bars, your regular bars, dance clubs, and stuff like that. And you also are going to have that little element of, just like anywhere, you're going to have that element of the underground, the seediness there as well. And so the fun of this game is that there's always someone trying to beat your head in. And
Mhm.
so you don't have to know all these combinations. You can be a button masher and you're just going toe to toe with a couple thugs on the street like every 14 steps, just like a normal RPG. But I have so much fun doing it that I literally walk around for hours just being the, because there's also little cutscenes that if you position the person in the right area, it's going to go to a cutscene of where you really do some serious damage to someone. And I
Mm.
love that part of that game. I played the first one, excuse me, I played a prequel that I think it was called Kawami Zero, and I beat that one. That one was really fun. Even though they do have, most of these do have like a serious storyline, there's some funny, there's humor of course implemented all the way in there, but you never take it too serious. I don't feel like it's dire like playing Resident Evil or even like Horizon Zero Dawn or anything like that. But
Right.
it's one of those games that I can also pick up for about 20 minutes, 30 minutes before bed, play a little bit. Even if I don't do storyline missions, I'm still, leveling up my character, and then I can put it down on my Steam Deck. So I really love it for those portions of it. But it's been a game that I always keep. I think we talked about this a couple episodes, Mike. It's one of those games that I'll never delete, even if I don't play it for a couple of months,
Okay.
because it's almost like NBA 2K kind of, in the sense that I would go play it and then I'll be done for the night, and then I still feel like I've accomplished something
Right.
playing that game, compared to others where you're like, I haven't finished a level. I
Right.
Uncharted
You
is
got
a
to
good
progress a
example of that.
certain way through a story or get to a
Yeah.
certain boss, and yeah, yeah, I feel you. I feel you.
And as much as I love like Uncharted 4, if I let's just say if I was hitting a dead end, I was getting off the game frustrated, and trying to go back to the drawing board the next day, which it's not that it's necessarily a bad thing. It's just annoying, because you're like, I was hoping to make some progression tonight because, I don't have months to play a game. I want to beat this one. Like, I could try to say, I'll beat this week, and then the next week I'll get started on something else. But it never works out that way.
Hmm.
But that's what I've been digging this week. There's not really much on the TV show realm, but Mike, go ahead and tell us what you've been up to this week.
Yeah, man. I, I like to just recap real quick, man. You brought up the juicy bars, man. It brings back memories.
What a
Brings back
time.
memories.
What a
Oh man,
time.
bring back memories from Korea, man.
Yeah,
Um,
it's going to be redacted, but all I can say is that, we had a blast.
yeah, on my side of it, I look at like I had a troop who he was a substitute when we were deployed over there, and he got there, and man, he hit the juicy bars quick, and he wasn't used to damn, what was it? Oh, soju. He wasn't used to
Hmm.
soju, right? And for those who don't know, like soju is like Korea's moonshine, I guess. Like it's an
Yeah, yeah.
unregulated liquor, right?
Hmm.
So like one night you might have some soju that's like 20% alcohol, right? But the next night it might be 90% alcohol. You just never know what you get. Um, and so we had this one bar that we would go to. I forget what it was called, uh, but it was in A Town, America Town,
Hmm.
and he got the lady gave him this bottle. It was a Gatorade bottle. It was clear. It had a root in it. Like it was like straight up like she just got done distilling this thing. The mama san got done distilling this thing, right? And these juicies are all over him, and man, I I've had guys who become, they left with the reputation of juicy slayer, and they're all proud of it. I was like, okay, I don't know if that's something to be proud of, but all
Yeah.
right. But man, I just remember going to those bars, and I remember the first time I went into one of those bars and thinking like, man, all these attractive women coming up to me, man. Oh, all right. Cool, man. Y'all
Mhm.
like Americans? All right, cool. Oh, wait, what? Oh, I gotta pay?
Yep.
I gotta pay? Oh, nah,
Once you
nah,
realize how
nah.
expensive those drinks are, it's a
Yeah,
whole.
these little shot glass sized drinks that don't have any alcohol in them. It's just like, oh, you're just stroking my ego until something else happens later on.
You know what? And I think we went drinking with that guy that you're talking
Oh,
about.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
and I remember, yeah, he was. You can just tell that he doesn't get a lot of play. And once he got into that bar,
yep.
and he got just all he needed was a shoulder rub, and he was done.
He was
you
it. That
know,
was it. That was a wrap
yeah,
for him.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Good times, good times.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So as far as what I've been doing, man, Rodney, I've been all in on the Steam Deck lately. Not that I haven't been before. We're almost coming up on a year uh, for having this. Everybody's starting to come out with their "We've had the Steam Deck for a year now" videos, and it'll be pretty soon for us to come up with our year. And I've been all in on it. I've been doing so much. I've mentioned before that I've got like the protective case that has the hard shell front, and now I just throw it into my bag without a case or anything like that. So that's been a super game changer. Uh, but this year alone, 2023, man, the games that have come out, and I guess not just for Steam, but really across the gaming industry, the games that have come out so far, it's just been, the last year or two have just been kind of, meh. Uh, and I don't know if that's because of the pandemic or whatever. Uh, but this year's been hot. It's been it started off real hot, and uh, I've I've gone all in. So, um, and we've talked before about not buying games at full price or whatever. Uh, but I kind of broke that rule, Rodney. Especially with Hogwarts Legacy.
Mm,
That's the game I've been playing. I've been playing a lot and having a lot of fun with it. Um, I'm a huge Harry Potter fan. I grew up on Harry Potter. Uh, I've watched all the movies. I've read some of the books with Elias. Uh, I just love that whole world, right? Like
mhm,
it's cool because it's lighthearted enough that you can get into, but eventually it just gets serious, and the stakes are very high. And so when the hype for this game came out, I was like, oh my God, this is great. But it was overshadowed by the controversy because of J.K. Rowling and her issues, right?
mm,
Um, and I had to put a link in the description when we get this video posted, but there's a YouTuber, I think it's called the Mighty Keith. Uh, and he does like these little short, he's one of these guys that does like little short comedy skits. And he brought up the issue of this controversy with Hogwarts Legacy, and just how really ridiculous people have gotten. Like people have gotten nasty about it, like saying like if you buy this game, then you're supporting, hate against transgenders. If you buy this game, you're supporting slavery, and I'm like, what? so,
yeah,
even though she had nothing to do with the development of this game, it's just a royalty check for her, right? Um,
mhm,
but so controversy aside, this game is amazing. Uh, and to be able to, like I said, I loved Harry Potter. There's a lot of stuff that I've loved from back in the day, but I could never really relate to because you think of all like these iconic movies or games or TV shows, whatever. Typically, mostly have white leads in it. So like I grew up reading Spider Man. I love Spider Man. I love Peter Parker. But it would have been nice to have growing up having that type of person be black, whatever, right? Uh,
mhm,
and so, uh, same thing with Harry Potter, right? Like not a whole lot of representation in those movies, right? But you get to Hogwarts Legacy, and I get to make this guy look, and it's not like one of those like it's one of the things I've always hated about Madden and how they do their player creation. They just give you a preset amount of faces and color, skin, and hair types to do. There's not a whole lot of customization like you would get in 2K. Um, and so which I thought was always one of 2K's biggest strengths. You could literally create your own player that looks exactly like you. Uh, and I feel like that's what you get here in Hogwarts Legacy. And so I've created me. I'm going to Hogwarts to become a full-on wizard. And so you're literally going through classes. You're taking classes. Um, you're doing homework assignments. There's even an underground fight club in the school. I was like, damn, there's an underground fight club while you're doing like the main story. And so, and I haven't even breached like the real meat of the game. And so it's fun. The combat is fun. It makes you think like the different types of spells that you can do and everything like that. Uh, so Hogwarts, I've been putting a lot of time into Hogwarts. It's just a really fun game. The environments are huge. The character, and this is one of those ones where uh, your character actually speaks. Okay, and you can
Mm.
actually change the tone of how that person sounds. So it's not just a generic voice. You can have a different type of voice. Um, but that character always speaks in the main dialogue and the side quests. It's a pretty immersive experience. Um, so yeah, so definitely Hogwarts Legacy. Uh, Returnal, I did get Returnal. Unfortunately, I have not played it because it just for the present time does not run well on the Steam Deck. I could
They
probably
still
play
haven't
it.
optimized it, huh?
No, no, they still haven't. And so I could probably play it on my gaming laptop. I just don't feel like doing it.
Mike, so sorry to cut you off, but you just made me just think of something. So I know I've told you about my gripes about Cyberpunk 2077.
Mhm.
Well, I just saw on Steam that they have optimized it for the Steam Deck and is now deemed as playable. So
Yes, yeah,
I haven't tried it on my Steam Deck yet, but to me, this has been, so I would say about 6 months in the waiting. So I don't know what Returnal is going to be looking like, but I don't think it'll be short in the sense of whatever they need to do to get those settings just right. Because I still have gripes with God of War Ragnarok because
okay.
of their settings for the Steam Deck. And don't get me wrong, I've tweaked them a bit, and so it does play better. But I still hate how certain things just become so pixelated.
Mhm. Yeah, so I'll say with that, like I know, so the biggest thing with Cyberpunk was that they brought FSR 2.1 into it. And so if you bring that in, the gameplay and the frame rates have been stabilized. But there are still going to be some compromises as far as how the game actually looks. Um,
Mhm.
Returnal, I think that one, I don't think we'll wait too long on Returnal just because it's a PlayStation game.
Mm.
And when you're talking about optimizing for the Steam Deck, it's more of a, because everybody has the same Steam Deck. There's no, it's a hard thing about computers. When you try to optimize for computers, uh, everybody has a different type of chipset, graphics card, whatever. So trying to optimize for all those different types of combinations, it's hard. Um, so I don't mind waiting on Returnal. That's fine. But so I just haven't played it. So there's that. But then I've been playing Atomic Heart. So I got Atomic Heart. It's this Fallout. So if you not even Fallout, if you remember the game Bioshock Infinite, uh, that's what this game reminds me of, and it draws heavily from that game. In fact, and it's imagine Bioshock Infinite and the movie I, Robot with Will Smith. That's basically what this is. Okay, you get the environments of Bioshock Infinite, and you kind of get the storyline of I, Robot, where the robots just they go insane. You don't know why. You're assuming that the AIs have taken over all these different robots, and at the beginning, you're fighting them with sticks and stones, basically. And it's it's uh it's a little freaky. But then as you progress through the game, and you get weapons, things tend to get a little better. Uh, this game runs pretty well on the Steam Deck. I won't say it runs very well. Uh, I will say it runs I think Hogwarts runs a little bit better than Atomic Heart. Um, I've heard a lot of people complain about how optimized Hogwarts is on Steam Deck. I don't have any issues with it, but uh, there are those people that are like um, frame snobs. You know, they want that 60 FPS all the time. And I'm like, yo, we grew up on like 30. So, uh, so yeah, been playing Atomic Heart. It's a fun game. The character that they have you play in it is like he's supposed to be a Russian, but he sounds American, and I guess that's a symptom of the the environment in the story because it's like an alternate history type of thing. Uh, and so the character is kind of annoying. They do a lot of they make fun a lot. They make fun of game industries a lot in this game, and
Mm.
sometimes it can get kind of annoying. Uh, but otherwise, the gameplay is fun. The environments are fun. So yeah, I've been doing that one. Been doing a lot of again a lot of emulation. I sent you and Brandon uh Def was it Def Jam
Hmm.
New York
Vendetta. Yep.
Vendetta. Oh my god, I forgot about that game. And
Love that
oh
game.
man, it's got my boy Christopher Judge in there, who happens to play Kratos right now in the God of
Mm.
War series. Uh, and so I was like, damn, there's so many people. I'm like, I'm playing with Buster Rhymes and everything like that. I'm just like,
Hmm.
what is going on?
I would love for them to make another one.
That dude, that is a game they need to remake. I don't know. I'm sure there's gonna be licensing issues, uh,
Yeah.
but that's a game they gotta remake. Can you imagine playing that game with today's graphics?
Hmm.
It's just it's a well acted. I love the storyline. Um, I mean, it's a little corny, but
Sure.
for the time when it came out, I thought it was pretty cool. So
Hmm.
been doing that, doing a lot of, like I said, I'm doing a lot of emulation. Um, I've also been, I don't know if I sent you the video, but I've been like customizing my unit to the point where like I've got plugins now, right? Um,
Hmm.
where I can change like the way the backgrounds and the of the user interface look like. I've changed how my Steam Deck opens up. Like I changed the opening animation, so it's not the traditional Steam Deck animation that opens up with. It's the Star Wars animation that you get in like the new movies and TV shows now. And so where it like cycles through like Vader and 3PO and the Rebel helmet and then R2D2, and then they have the Steam Deck be last. And it's really cool. I'll have to post a video of that in shorts or something like that. Um, even to the point where when I suspend the Steam Deck, it does like a Nintendo like beep. Uh, so I've been deep. I've been all in into the Steam Deck. I'm currently I designed a new controller with Microsoft in their design lab. So I'm looking to purchase that and have that be my main controller from when I'm docked with the Steam
Hmm.
Deck. I'm I'm about to buy an SSD for my Steam Deck and replace it with the one that I already have in there. Um, so it's either gonna be a 1 terabyte or a 2 terabyte. I'll probably go 2 terabytes to be honest with you. So I've been doing a lot, Rodney. I'm about to
Yeah, you've
begin.
turned into Frankenstein. And
Dude, I've
to be fair, we did that with what, the PlayStation 3? We kind of Frankensteined it where we were pulling out the hard drive and doing all type of
mhm.
crazy stuff with it, especially because Sony was like, "Yeah, you
You
maybe it was
commit
the
for
4
I think it
because
was
they were
four. It was four.
yeah, and they because at Sony, oh, that's right, because Sony was kind of like funky about you adding your own hard drive in it to get more space. They wanted it to be
Hmm.
proprietary, and then of course, we all kind of stood up and was like, absolutely not. And then they kind of turned course, so we started all upgrading them, stuff like
Hmm.
that. But yeah, the Steam Deck just allows for so much custom stuff that is cool, and I really hope that they don't try to swing away from it when the next iteration of the Steam Deck comes out. Like, embrace it. That's what
Yeah,
makes it fun.
yeah, no doubt. Oh, I forgot to tell you. So yes, I so uh, for those who don't know, I think it was a few weeks ago. Syria had a devastating earthquake. A lot of people lost their lives. A lot of
Mm,
people displaced from their home. So there's a website called Humble Bundle. I usually go on there like once every few months to see what kind of deals they got, and uh, they do a thing where they'll give you a bundle, for X amount of money. And usually in
Hmm.
that bundle, there'll be like maybe 1 or 2 games that you'll be like, oh man, I gotta have that. And then they'll throw in some other games in there too. And it's usually at a really good price. And so for charity, they decided they're gonna, whatever you donated for this bundle, 99% of it's going to the relief effort out there in Syria. And
That's cool.
so this bundle included 2 games. Uh, One of them was, of course, I was going to say Nightwing. It's not. It's not Nightwing, but Gotham Knights.
Okay.
And then the other one was, if I can remember, Ghost Runner. Okay, and so these were 2 games that I when Gotham Knights came out, and we've talked about this before, where it was controversial. It's not by Rocksteady, and it looked like they departed from that Rocksteady formula, right?
Hmm.
And then the previews came out for it, and people are like, "Man, the graphics don't look next gen. And gameplay looks a little iffy," and so a lot of controversy about it. Uh, but being the Batman type of guy that I am, I was like, I want this game, but I'm just not going to pay full price for it. And then the other one was Ghost Runner, and this was a game I actually first noticed on the Nintendo Switch. And it's a what's the best way to describe this? It's like a 3D platformer, where it's one of those ones where you get to do every level. It's so difficult. Like if you fail, you got to do the level over again. I don't want to say it's like a roguelike, but uh, essentially it's like a cyberpunk s type of future where you're running around with the sword, and you're running off walls, and you're taking down your enemies. You're basically doing parkour, right? Um, and so those were 2 that I wanted to get, but I was like, you know what? I'll wait until they go on discount. I don't want to pay full price for either of these games. Well, with Humble Bundle, they decided to include both these games plus about 70 more items. Okay, and most of it was like indie type games. I want to say Payday was on there, but obviously we already own that. Um, but everything else was indie games. And then they decided to throw in a comic book, and it was Saga, all 10 volumes of Saga. Um, and so I was like, man, really? And I looked on Comixology because I was like, I know I have Saga on Comixology, but it's only the first 3 or 4 volumes. And so I was like,
Hmm.
oh, okay. So all of this, so you're getting like 73, 74 items uh, for $35. Okay.
That's a damn good price.
Yes.
Saga
So,
alone is $35.
right. And so you think about Gotham Knight, uh, $60 game. Okay. Ghost Runner, I believe, is a $40 game.
Hmm.
Um, and then, like you said, with Saga, that's another $35. And then you throw in all the other stuff in there. I'm sure the price goes up exponentially, right? Um, but I felt like, okay, this is a good deal, and all this $35, 34 of it's going towards the Syria relief effort. So, well, all right, it feels like a win-win. And so
Hmm.
I did it. Now I own Gotham Knights uh, and Ghost Runner, and man, I haven't played Ghost Runner yet, but I was really curious about Gotham Knights. Now, full disclaimer, it yes, it is not. It's still having its issues. As far as it's still kind of buggy. I do experience crashes, and I've had to get the settings right to a point that I felt like it was playable. But from what I've played so far, Rodney, I'm actually having a lot of fun. I'm
Okay.
I'm shocked. Uh, this game has a lot of potential, but there are some issues. Driving around the city is horrendous. I'm
I
talking
heard.
like 15 frames per second. It's absolutely atrocious. Like I'm on low. I got FSR on. I've got I've reduced the resolution to 720 instead of 800. I've gone to windowed instead of full screen. Um, I've turned on VSync to allow screen tearing just to squeeze out another frame or two. Uh, so driving through the city is terrible. It's absolutely terrible. Uh, but everything else, like the combat, is actually pretty legit. And granted, I've only played with Nightwing because that's my boy. I'm always gonna play with Nightwing. Um,
Hmm.
you have the option to play with Red Hood. You have the option to play with Tim Drake's Robin, and then you have the option to play as Batgirl, um, Barbara Gordon. And so I haven't gotten too deep into it yet, but from what I've played so far, it's damn good. So I'm it's got a lot of potential. I can't wait to see like, and that's one of those games I could wait on, um, to for it to get better as far as optimization and getting all the bugs
Hmm.
out and have it not crash. But it's I I'm actually mildly surprised. I was not expecting it to be as good as it was. So yeah, that's what I've been doing over the last like few weeks. I've been deep into the Steam Deck, and I can't wait. I'm telling you right now, I can't wait to really crack open the case. I'm a little bit nervous,
Hmm.
um, but everything that I've read so far, everything that I've seen, it should be a relatively mild experience or operation to replace the hard drive. Um, but I'm pretty excited, man. Uh, there's a lot of stuff. There's also a plugin. I haven't really gotten it to work that great yet, but there's also a plugin that allows you to record straight from your Steam Deck as if it were like OBS, basically.
Hmm.
Um, so I did that briefly one day, and it was it was only like 30 seconds, maybe, or maybe it was a minute or two. But it was like 4 gigabytes. I was like, holy crap.
Damn.
um, so I don't know if I did something wrong, but that's just what it was. So, uh, but yeah, that's what I've been doing, man. I've been deep into it. I've been absolutely deep into it. The skin that I'm thinking about getting is probably going to be from D brand, and it might be the leather one. I
Mm.
I just throwing it out there.
So we you talked about a surprise. Let's talk about another surprise, right?
Uh oh. Uh oh.
And this is PlayStation State of Play that took place this past month,
Oh
right?
yes, yes.
And a reason this is a surprise is usually PlayStation knocks it out the park with their State of Play. And everything I've heard, and I'll be honest, I try my best not to listen to a lot of commentary, and I try to make my own opinion on things, but I do, if there's something that I'm very interested in, I do take the time from sites, well, not even sites, but from channels on YouTube that I respect, to hear their opinion and see what's the issue or what's the problem and all that other stuff, right? Now, there's not really much about the state of play itself that anybody is really talking about except Suicide Squad, because there was some VR games, but people said that they were cheap looking and stuff like that, and they weren't the greatest. But the biggest thing, like the biggest news thing that came out of this, was Suicide Squad killed the Justice League. Like
Oh
the minute
yes.
that
Oh.
the minute that this came out, uh I'm not gonna lie, it terrified me off rip, because this has been a game, like Michael just mentioned before, with Gotham Knights, people like, well, this ain't Rocksteady. And so we're assuming that since Rocksteady, had the keys to Suicide Squad, that we'll get something amazing. And I'm gonna kind of give you some snippets here from this article from Forbes. And it goes, after 10 minutes of footage and explanation from Rocksteady, the general takeaway seems to be, wait, that's what this game is? The disconnect is that everyone knows Rocksteady from the Arkham series, the trilogy that famously inspired the "you feel like X" meme. But it was true, you did feel like Batman, as his brawling, sneaking, and mystery solving made for a compelling series of games, and everyone was incredibly eager to see which DC property Rocksteady would take on next. But Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League looks like a hard left turn deep into not just new style of combat, but an entirely new type of game based on looter shooter model of Borderlands and the live service ambitions of Destiny or Marvel's Avengers. All right. What was shown off yesterday raised a lot of red flags. personally, but surveyed the reaction online, I wasn't alone. Here's a few of the things that was revealed from the footage. Gameplay is incredibly arcadey, focused heavily on aerial combat across all 4 character classes, with access to grappling hooks, teleporters, and jetpacks. The game that immediately came to mind when I saw the footage was Crackdown, not a favorable comparison. The game is heavily loot focused. While each character does have a unique kit, they share access to a number of weapon classes that will be looted during the game: SMGs, assault rifles, snipers, Gatling guns, etc. There's a gear score, which is meant to improve over time to increase your power, nearly identical to a system you'd find in the Division, Destiny, or the Avengers. The game is 4-player co-op like Borderlands, but unlike Borderlands, there is no true solo play, as playing by yourself will have bots filling the other roles, exactly like Marvel's Avengers. And even if you are playing solo, the game requires a constant internet connection. The game has a battle pass that reiterates is cosmetic only, but it's a battle pass all the same. And there's a store tab in the menus for whatever that sells. During the presentation, Rocksteady very much made it clear that they will support the game with live service features well into the future, like new missions and even new playable characters. And just kind of going from there. Actually, just starting there, uh, I'm pissed. Right. Well, no, actually, no, let me change that. I'm not pissed because I'll be real with you. I was excited for this game to play in a co-op setting, and they gave me that. But for everything else, and I looked at some of the gameplay and I was pissed off because how in the world do you have these characters that have superpowers, but they're using guns most of the time? It just felt like uh you know what, you could literally almost, if it didn't have DC characters in this game, you can go ahead and just call this Contra, because it just, you're just shooting, you're just aiming and shooting at people, and the thing is you just get a higher vantage point and you're still shooting and you're still shooting. It didn't seem, the fact that you get to use your powers and do all that stuff seemed to be second nature and not to be the first thing, which is quite unfortunate because this is a superhero game. Even if these are anti-superheroes, it's still it's a DC game, right? Like, you want to, let me see, there's Captain Boomerang, there's Harley Quinn, I don't recall, there's a few others, and I know some of these folks don't have superpowers in quotes, right? But the ones who do, how come we're not displaying those or using those a whole lot better than what you're showing in this? But another thing that comes to mind is, why do you need a game pass for everything these days? It's already, like, look, I know the joke always comes out like, Marvel, take my money, this, take my money. But you guys are literally trying to take all my money. I get a game pass for, let's say, Microsoft, that's like $5-10. Then you want to have your own internal game pass for cosmetics, where you have all these various costumes, or you can have this type of mask and not this type of mask. And this isn't Apex Legends we're talking about. We're talking about a game that realistically, after you beat the story mode, that you only play once. You don't play it 1,000 times. It's like, let's be real here. We're going to try to make it seem like a lot of these games have massive replay value. It's extremely hard for a game to keep your attention and to have replay value. That's what makes Destiny, Grand Theft Auto 5, I know there's a couple games I'm forgetting, they have true replay value, because after the game itself, the story mode of the game was done, we still played those games. I remember me, Michael, and my brother all playing Grand Theft Auto 5 online, just because they had so much to do. And the only reason we stopped playing it was because there was other games that were out there. But every so often, I will load up Grand Theft Auto 5 and mess around for a little bit. And to me, that's true replay value. But all this intricate stuff, and they're showing like the little menu map where they have scores on scores, and the Division had it, and to me that makes sense in the Division. But for Suicide Squad, this doesn't look right. And you know what, Suicide Squad was already an interesting pick for Rocksteady when you could have went a couple different routes with it. But looking at the format, it might not have been the best pick at all. Like I know they have a little bit of popularity because of the movies and some of the other stuff that we've seen them in, but I don't know. You, like the journalist of this article said, like this does feel like the division, a bit. And that's not good. I never played Crackdown, but Crackdown was never taken with this big love affair at all either. And so I don't know if this game is dead out of the gates. Of course, people are going to play it, and we're going to hear from all type of contemporaries saying whether they like this game or not. But I don't know. When it comes to Suicide Squad, it's going to be it's going to be, you're not going to get my $60. Let's be clear. It's going to be 30, 20 or something like that, but if they tell me the thing that I look for in a game these days is that, my Michael, my brother, myself can all get on a game together and ball out, then it'll be fun. But other than that, like, this doesn't seem fine, and I don't understand why we keep on accepting, hey, let's do this Game Pass for all these skins, and I'm paying
Right.
$20-$30 for that. That's not necessary. It just doesn't make sense. Mike, I don't know what you heard because I know you stepped away from a minute and all this other stuff. But what's your thoughts about all this going on with Suicide Squad?
It looks terrible. God, it looks like a worse version of Avengers, to be
Mm.
honest with you.
Ooh,
Um,
okay.
and I haven't seen. They didn't show much. Okay, uh, but from what I did see, everybody has literally the same power set, literally the same weapons. Um, it just doesn't seem like there's any uniqueness to the members. Okay,
Hmm.
um, Boomerang has a sniper rifle, machine gun. Uh, Harley has a sniper rifle, a machine gun. They're all like flying through the air. I don't know. Just this is not what I expected at all. And so it makes me sad. But I will say for why this happened, the theory that I've have seen is that because this game was so long in development, I think they said like 7 years, right? Um, the trend at the time was to make these live service games because of games like Destiny. Uh, and so now everybody else was like, "Oh, we got to make these live service games." But when you have a 7 year development time, well, that trend seems to go away. Um, and only the cream of the crop. I mean, Destiny's pretty much the one live service game that you can look to that is actually good. Everybody else has kind of faltered, um, and so it doesn't look good. It just doesn't look good. Uh, it's one of those games where it's, and I think you mentioned, uh, it's behind a paywall, and for what? Like you're not getting anything of significance. Um, so I don't know. I don't like when these games do this. It's what really drove me batty about Ghost Recon, Point Break or Fall Break or whatever the second one is called. Um, because that one's locked behind a paywall, and it's like it just doesn't look. And I'm also kind of confused because they ended that showcase with Wonder Woman and Flash being looking like he's infected as he's the bad guy, but then Wonder Woman is the good guy, and is she like helping the Suicide Squad? Is she mentoring the Suicide Squad? Um, is she helping you to battle the Justice League? So I'm not sure what's really going on here. I mean, I guess maybe at the I don't know, man. Do you remember DC Universe Online?
Mm-hmm.
That to me was a great game. It got repetitive after a while.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and eventually especially when you do like the PvP stuff, you're always playing somebody who's just massively overpowered than you. Um, but it was a fun game, and you knew what you were getting. But you also were able to create a unique character of your own, uh, and it felt unique. I don't see that with Suicide Squad. Um, so I would have rather they had just made a storyline game like their previous, like the Arkham games that they've done, and do it that way. But to make it like this always online experience, come on.
Mike, so one of the things that I mentioned was that, to me personally, Suicide Squad was already a hard sell for
Right.
the
Yeah.
for for Rocksteady to be taken on, and I thought it was a difficult choice. And looking at the final result, it tells me that it doesn't seem like it was the right choice whatsoever. Who in the DC universe would have been the ideal selection for possibly Rocksteady to do other than them? I know who I have, but I want to hear yours first.
They could have done anything, literally anything, other than
Hmm.
Suicide Squad. They're like a Suicide Squad is like a DLC that you get.
Hmm.
Okay, they're not the main crew to get. All right. I feel like they tried to do like the James Gunn thing with Guardians of the Galaxy. Nobody knew two stuffs about Guardians of the Galaxy before that movie came out, except for hardcore comic book guys.
Hmm.
Um, but James Gunn brought them to the forefront, and they eventually had a game that came out that was amazing. Uh, so I felt that that's what Rocksteady was trying to do. Who would I've liked to have had Rocksteady do instead? Man, I don't know. Maybe Green Lantern. Why? How we not had a good Green Lantern game? Have we ever had any Green Lantern game?
I Other than him showing up in Justice, I don't believe so.
Yeah. Why haven't we done a Green Lantern game? I
That
feel
was
like we
my
could
pick
do.
too.
Yeah, I feel like we could do a Green Lantern game. If you could do a Star Wars game, you could do a Green Lantern game.
I ain't gonna hold you. They could have also did, in my personal opinion, I think you could have did a Green Arrow game,
Oh
right?
yeah, even Green Arrow. That's a
Uh,
great choice, actually. I
you
I
know, or you could have even went, if you wanted something with some notoriety, you could have did the Justice League, right?
right, right,
And you could have set up these missions where, there's these flight missions. You do some stealth stuff with Batman. You do some Flash stuff. You do whatever the core five, I think, do,
right.
right? And you could have had fun with that. But yeah, I would have said something along those lines.
Here's what threw me: the always online part.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I actually thought that Gotham Knights was going to be an always on game because that's kind of how they pitched it. Like you're mostly playing this with your friends.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I thought that this was going to have to be an always online game, and it's not. Thank goodness. Um, but the fact that they've made you don't have to make it an always online game. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
look at Borderlands. You can always drop it to somebody's game on
Mm.
Borderlands. That we
Yep.
did it all the time.
Yeah.
Uh, but you didn't have to be online. You know why? Because that's why Brandon was always so massively overpowered over both of us. Brandon, you're ranked 300. We're still ranked 20. What you
Yep.
been doing? Oh, I've been playing without you guys online or offline.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool, 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 cool. Um, so you don't have to always do a online game, always online game. And we've seen the issues with this, especially with Gran Turismo. Gran Turismo is an always online game, and we've seen their servers go down. Can you imagine coming home from a 12-hour workday? All you want to do is get on the track, race some cars, and the server's down. You can't play. Get the heck out of here. So now they're putting that complication into it. Like that's just I don't know. Like you said, it's Suicide Squad was a bad choice in the first place. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
had they done, I like the idea of Green Arrow. I really do. I think that's a really good one. That's a way to get people Batman without Batman,
Or if you
right?
did like Booster Gold and Blue Beetle, because Blue
Mm.
Beetle's like, and when I say that, I'm
Oh, I
talking
would love
about
Blue Beetle.
Ted Cord, because Ted Cord was more your
Oh,
detective
okay.
type of Blue Beetle. You know what I'm saying? And you could have thrown the newer one, and kind of did it just like did it like the Miles Morales thing, where you're
Yeah,
you're investigating this new Blue Beetle or something like that, and then
right.
have Booster Gold for the more power up situations and stuff like that. But I mean, I'm you know what the other thing is? I think I am tired of the fact that you guys are trying to use the same, as big as the DC universe is, and Marvel for that matter, you're trying to use the same characters over and over for video games when you
Hmm.
have so many other things to pinpoint from. I'll give you a good example. My daughters have been watching damn it. It's Blase Blah and Devil Dinosaur.
Oh,
And it was phenomenal. It's a cartoon. I think it's like only 6 episodes, like
okay,
45 minutes each.
okay,
It is terrific. And it's probably not even talked about because it's not Captain America.
right.
It's not Iron Man. It's not Thor and all this other stuff. But my daughters have, and here's how I know, because my daughters will always replay what they like
Hmm.
all the time. And my daughters always go back to that show because it was original. It felt like my daughters, it had, even had the Beyonder in it, which was kind of cool. And,
Mm.
the Beyonder was done by Lawrence Fishburne.
Oh,
And
nice.
they had some big names attached to it, but it was terrific. And for someone like me who knows very little about, and I can't remember what the little girl's name is, uh, between her and Devil Dinosaur, they knocked it out the park, and they gave some real life situations that I don't know because I haven't looked into that character in the comic book realm, but I
Hmm.
don't know if, because mind you, the girl that's with Devil Dinosaur is also extremely smart, and she's built inventions and stuff. Moon Girl, that's her name, Moon
Oh,
Girl.
Moon Girl.
Mo-
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Moon
Okay.
Girl and Devil Dinosaur, and so she's smart and all this other stuff, and she goes, you see the challenges she goes through for being so smart and dealing with other individuals and things like that. There's some real thought put behind it. It's not just um I'm going to compare to this, even though I love this show. It's not Teen Titans Go, right?
Okay.
Teen Titans Go was just kind of like, we have this wild concept and we're going to put it on television, right? This one is, the animation to me is great. The voices is great. The story is great. They did well with it. I think, I don't know if you have girls, or even if you're just a comic book person, give it a shot. But I say that to go back to my original point is, what's wrong with diversifying now, right? And I'm not talking about just diversity as the whole of, we need Black, Latino, Asian characters, but what, y'all have these expansive universes. How come you guys are not going into the pot and
Right.
pulling them
Diversify your
out?
portfolio.
Yeah, absolutely. There's like Michael just mentioned. Why isn't Green Lantern on television? Like,
Right.
even if it was James Stewart, or or Jordan, or
Yep.
Kyle Rayner. How come they're
Yep.
not, or even the core? I just watched the movie Supergirl with the Legion of Superheroes. Why
Hmm.
isn't and I just thought about it, because the Legion of Superheroes was one of my favorite comic books back in the day. How come the Legion of Superheroes in there? They have 1,000 characters under their membership that you can literally do, just like Justice League Unlimited did. And every episode, there's a new set of team members, and they're taking on a particular situation, and you can make
Hmm.
the story work out. It's just annoying that. Yet, hey, I've always I'm been a big proponent of, hey, I'm glad that these properties are now making it to the silver screen, small screen, whatever you want to say. But as much as I love the founding fathers, which is your Spider-Mans, your Captain Americas, your Superman, your Batman, your Wonder Woman, whoever you want to say, why have you not gone outside of the Cyborg? It, to me, has been given injustice many times over, because
Yeah.
even
Very
he
underrated. Very underrated.
underrated. why don't you put him out there? Static Shock, why don't you put him back out there? There's so many stories, so many things that you could be developing, but you keep on wanting to say, all right, guess what, ladies and gentlemen, we're ready to give you another reboot of Superman. And you're just like, come on, again? You
Right.
know, we went through this a couple years ago with Tobey Maguire, right? The
Right.
the and this is no fault of his, but Tobey Maguire went there and he did them first three Spider-Man movies. And because the third one did poorly, they were like, it's time for a reboot, right? And within no time, I think 2 years, gave us the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, which
Hmm.
didn't do well after the second portion of it, right? And instead of kind of like blowing off steam and waiting again, I think 3-4 years reboot once again, and then we had the Tom Holland Spider-Man, right?
Hmm.
And the reason I say that is because that wasn't the only property that Sony had.
No.
You know, they could have went so many other avenues with that. We could have got so much more, but we didn't. And that's where this all becomes frustrating, right? Is that you continuously pass up on opportunities to get some other characters out there that deservingly so require some spotlight and they can possibly make you some money, but
Yeah.
it doesn't do good if you don't introduce them. and and
Right.
and that's the thing that's heartbreaking, is that I'm looking at a Suicide Squad game, and I'm almost scratching my head the same way I did when the first movie came out. Like,
Hmm.
why them when there's so much more you could have did? And
Right.
look, this is no fault of Suicide Squad, because you could do something with that, but at the same time, it requires a delicate touch, and they didn't do it for this. Like you said, it was in development hell for 8 years. By time by time the game that they wanted to make was done, the game industry had already developed 14 times.
Yep.
So,
Interestingly enough, because of that long development cycle, I didn't even think about this. So we said like 7, 8 years, right? What came out 7, 8 years ago? Suicide Squad, the movie,
the first one, I think, right?
the first one.
Yeah.
So, were they like trying to ride on the curtails of that and be like, yo, Suicide Squad is coming out. It looks hot. Let's make this game, Rocksteady.
It's a strong
Cool.
possibility, because why else do you have Captain Boomerang in it? Because
Right.
I don't even think he's in the second one. He
Right.
already got killed in the
Is he?
second one.
I don't think he's in the second one.
Yeah.
Uh, but like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like you said, it's what was the point, man? That was a bad choice in the first place. Um, if you have all these IPs, and uh, this is the one you chose,
Mhm.
and I feel like Rocksteady, they should have known better. Like, if you're gonna go obscure, do something with more interesting characters. Hell, I would have rather them have had done Doom Patrol.
Ooh,
Okay, do some
that
people
would
that
be
actually
good.
have some
Superpowers.
believable superpowers too. No one
Mhm.
gives a crap about a guy who throws a boomerang.
Mhm.
No one gives a crap about the Joker's therapist that went crazy. They don't have superpowers. All
Nope.
right, you can make a case for uh Deadshot, I guess,
Mhm.
because he's your classic special forces trained sniper, better than everybody else, Punisher like type of guy, right?
But then you got the
Uh,
shark in there, and he's got guns, and I don't understand that.
right. Come on,
Yeah.
come on, man.
Yeah.
It seems lazy,
Mhm.
especially for Rocksteady. You came off the
Mhm.
Arkham games, bro. Like,
So,
it just seems lazy.
I wonder, do you think it wasn't Rocksteady that chose Suicide Squad, but it was more DC chose Rocksteady? Where
That's
they
a
were like,
that's a
"Hey."
that's an interesting question, because I would like to think, like, why would you go from? I understand it from the point of it's Batman, and so you should know about the Suicide Squad to a point.
Mhm.
Um, I guess you could say they've crossed paths before. They
Mhm.
have, of course, especially with Amanda Waller. Uh, but Rocksteady, you've handled one of DC's biggest icon, if not the biggest icon in DC. Okay,
Mhm.
people. You talked about Spider-Man. How many Batman reboots did we have?
Yeah.
Okay, um, there are only two characters for each company that you could keep rebooting time after time again and make money. It's
Mhm.
Spider-Man and Batman. Well, they're the only
Mhm.
two. Okay,
Yep.
so how do you go from Batman all the way up here at the top, all the way down to damn Suicide Squad? So yeah, maybe there was some corporate pressure.
Mike,
Maybe.
I'm sorry to cut you off. 'Cause I agree with you. You now that hearing you say that, you know who they should have done this game for?
Mhm.
They should have did it for Gotham Knights, or they should have did it with the Super Sons.
Yeah,
Like they should have
absolutely,
kept it. They should have kept it
absolutely.
in that universe,
Yep,
right? And then
yep.
this would have been an easier thing to translate.
Yeah, why couldn't you have done that for Gotham Knights?
Hmm.
The uh, I don't know about Arkham City or Arkham Knight, but I know in Arkham City you could unlock Nightwing and Robin.
Yep.
You played as Catwoman,
Yep.
and it worked. You tell me you couldn't have expanded that universe to give us a proper Nightwing game, a proper Bat Family game? You should have kept Gotham Knights instead of here, you Montreal, whatever, you take it. Um, and let's deceive everybody. There's a new Batman game coming out. All right, Rocksteady. Oh, it's not Rocksteady. It's Montreal WB, whatever. Um, damn. Okay, cool. What y'all working on? Oh, we got a hot game coming out. It's been in development for 8 years. What's it called? Suicide Squad. Oh. Oh. And going up against the Justice League. Now, if they had said, hey, look, we're coming out with a new Batman, and it's Batman versus the Justice League, I can get down with that. Only because we've seen it happen in the comic books. All right.
Hmm.
And it's all about Batman being ready. He has a plan for everybody. All right. I could believe Batman could take down the Justice League. What makes people believe that that's a Suicide Squad can take down the Justice League?
Hmm.
People want to talk about, well, Batman doesn't have any powers. Okay, neither does Harley Quinn, Boomerang, Deadshot. Who's the person they got on their squad that can stand toe to toe with Superman? Nobody. So, maybe Peacemaker in? Like, come on. Um, so yeah, no, it was a bad choice, and yeah, maybe Warner Brothers and DC had a hand in saying, look, we want Suicide Squad because the movie just came out. There's going to be another movie. They're going to do TV shows. They're going to have all this marketing and toys and advertising, whatever. So
Hmm.
yes, we want another. We want a game with the Suicide Squad. And maybe Rocksteady was like, how the hell do we do that? We're going to put these guys up against random. And in the showcase, they were fighting against people from Brainiac.
Hmm.
So is Brainiac the one that's doing this to the Justice League and making them fight? Um, I don't understand the game, and I would have given it some uh some thought, like I did with Gotham Knights,
Hmm.
had it not been an always online. I'm not always online. I get a majority of my gameplay in when I'm at lunch at work. And I don't have an internet connection when I'm at work. I could
Hmm.
I can get onto my hotspot, but what's that going to do to my gameplay? Like maybe if it were just a matter of logging onto the server, but that hotspot, I'm in a freaking aircraft facility. The signal isn't that great. I'm on LTE for God's sake. I have a 5G phone and I'm on LTE inside my building.
Man,
So
yeah, you ain't getting much.
right? So how am I supposed to be playing this always online? And granted, I get that a majority of people are not in my situation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is not the demographic they're shooting for a 40-something guy who already has a career and kids and responsibilities, doesn't get to play much at home because he's too tired or he's got to get up early in the morning. And look, if I got to get up early in the morning to get some time in, because this is gonna be one of those games that it's not gonna be a pick up and play.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta spend a good hour, 2 hours just to get a little bit.
And you're gonna be getting that menu that tells you, "Hey, we got new skins for you. Why don't you buy
Right,
one?"
right. So if I have 2 hours to myself, okay, before the kids wake up, before I get to start my day, am I gonna play Suicide Squad or am I gonna play 2K? Am I gonna play Suicide Squad or Madden? Okay, Suicide Squad or Hogwarts Legacy, which is also a game that is not a pick up and play game. But I would rather spend my time playing Hogwarts than and going through a campaign and a story and feel like I'm actually developing my character over
Yeah.
some. They were showing screenshots of the 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 skill set and rankings and everything for Suicide Squad. It was confusing as hell.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, man, this looks generic and big. No, generic. That's what this game. It looks lazy. This is a
Yeah.
big. This is a big boot. This is. I said at the beginning of the episode that man, the year started off hot. This is gonna be like the one really downer this year. That's terrible. That's terrible. I expected better out of Rocksteady, man. Like that'd be like Rockstar coming out with a new Grand Theft Auto. Um, but it's like I don't know,
And it feels like you're
AARP,
playing Ghost Recon.
right? Like it's like AARP Grand Theft Auto or something like that. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's like what? What?
Mm-hmm.
This game's been in development for 20 years. This is what we get? No. Yeah.
No.
So I don't know, man. That was a huge letdown. That PlayStation event was, and I don't know if it was because the Nintendo event was so hype and was just amazing.
Mm.
And then imagine PlayStation coming off the heels of that, and this is the game that you end with, and it's a dud. That people are
Mm-hmm.
like, "Whew, doesn't look good, buddy." I know PlayStation. Somebody's gonna have to go over there with a sword or something to be like, "Yo, y'all better fix this right now."
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, you know what's gonna happen? This game's gonna come
What?
out. People are gonna buy it, and they're gonna dump billions into buying skins and whatever other microtransaction that they need to do to play this game.
Don't remind me because it's that's
We
yeah.
don't have a
I'm
voice
look.
anymore. We really don't. Our generation of players
Uh-huh.
does not have a voice anymore. Okay, because this new generation of people, of kids, and even like your 20 somethings, I'll even maybe throw the 30 somethings. They're the reason why Fortnite is still out there.
Mm.
They're the reason why these companies are making billions. This is why EA keeps doing what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's why people are so surprised about um, Star Wars, the Star Wars game. Does it have microtransactions? What the hell? But every other game from EA does. I don't know what those guys, the developer for Star Wars, did to make it be like, no, we don't want microtransactions. I don't know what kind of dirt they got on the EA execs. But EA is like, you know what? That's fine. We're going to get money from everybody, all these other games we got. We're going to keep putting out the same soccer game every year. No changes. Except for the rosters. Rosters that you can download yourself from the community. Nah, we're going to put out a Ultimate Edition, and it's going to cost you $70.
And we're gonna stamp
Everybody's
it.
going to buy it.
Yep. Yep. That
That's
sounds like
terrible.
me with Halo back in the day when they just used to add a little action figure in a big old box, and I was like, well, I'm about to pay $150 for this. But no, actually, let me change that, because you actually got something. Even if the game sucked, you got something that was kind of cool, whether it was the helmet or whatever, right? But now you get an incomplete game, then you have all these skins, then they want you to stay online, then there's either possibly not enough players. If there is enough players, then they don't have anything to weigh out the different levels as far as people who know how to play the game and stuff like that. So, we can go hours and hours on this. It's just going to be, it's unfortunate, but this is the way it's going to be. The good thing is, what makes it great now is there's more indie games to be played.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
though, and the indie games to me is where it's at more than AAA titles personally. So
So yeah,
I
I've
would
been killing
rather,
it on indie games.
yeah, same here. And so because of that, I feel kind of at ease, right? Because I don't really go running for a lot of AAA titles unless it's something that the concept is really good. And there's been some good ones like Michael mentioned. I think Returnal looks kind of dope. I always go back to Cyberpunk 2077 because I think even though it had its issues, I think the world that they built and the way that it can be expanded is pretty impressive. There's a few other games even the Hogwarts game that came out, is very expansive. And there's rumors of DLCs where you'll be able to play, was that Quidditch and all this other stuff. So there's those type of things where you get to do that type of stuff. But these other games that come out that just want to nickel and dime you for everything. I look at the old school Battlefront, Star Wars. I look at Apex Legends and Fortnite, Overwatch, and stuff like that, where you're talking about $3-4 per skin, $3-4 per weapon. And guess what? It doesn't change anything. You just got a cool thing that you're adding on, or you're supposed to sacrifice all your time and play hours on hours and hours of the game, and then they'll
Hmm.
give it to you as a prize. But guess what? You're literally sitting there playing a game for hours and hours and hours. I love video games. I really do. But guess what? I do have a job. And so it's
Right.
like,
Right.
there's other things that do come to mind about stuff like that. But anyway, let's get somewhere more positive, right? And I just saw this pop up, and I just want to give its accolades, man, because um I think that what they've done has been pretty triumphant. And I haven't finished it, but I just think it's a great thing. And it's that Star Trek Discovery fifth season will be its last, right? And I'm only on season 2, but I was a I'm not a Star Trek fan by trade. And I can't even call myself a casual. But I've been intrigued in this season because of the lead character and one of their what do we call it? One of their supporting characters, because the lead character came from the Walking Dead TV series. Her name is Sequoia Green. I might be butchering her first name. I apologize. But to see her take on the role, and then of course Michelle Yeoh was in the series for a bit, and then there's another gentleman. He was from this British comedy I used to watch called Toast of the Town, and he used to play this guy named Clint Fandango, super funny, but in this show he's very serious and all that other stuff. And the first season was terrific. I really love how they did the first season. And I'm sure the second, third, fourth, and this upcoming fifth season have their highs and lows. People might like it or love it, or they might not even like it. But to see Star Trek come back like this, because I didn't really see, because if as a kid, Star Trek was always an hour, and they had 20 to 25 episodes a season. So there was just so much of it. And then you had, when I was coming up, you had the regular Star Trek, you had Deep Space Nine, you had Voyager, and you had I know Enterprise, and you also had the Next Generation. And I might be missing something in there. And you had the movies. and you had the MMO for a little bit that didn't do well at all. And I think those servers have since then been turned off. But you've had all this Star Trek lore that when Paramount Plus was coming out, I think we might have did episode on it. We were like, oh my God, not another service we got to pay money to.
Hmm.
And then to have Star Trek on that service, a lot of people was like, look, I'm not paying for that. And I'm not doing this and I'm not doing that. But I must admit, I think they've been a success because Star Trek Discovery was one of those shows that was water cooler talk. It constantly had fodder on particular levels. And guess what? It might not be to the same levels as a show that was on a network like CBS, NBC, ABC that was more easily accessible, but you had your pocket audience that couldn't wait to see that show, and it's done well that it even sprouted off the animation ones. We've had Picard. I know there's another one I'm forgetting, but there's been so many other shows that sprouted out just off of Star Trek Discovery. So personally, I just want to give that whole team their flowers because they really brought back that feeling back for a lot of Star Trek fans. Mike can speak a little bit more on it because I know he has more of a love relationship to Star Trek than I do. But I want to just give them their flowers. Mike, your
Yeah,
thoughts?
no, I Star Trek Discovery. I grew up on Star Trek straight up, like hardcore. Um, Watched the originals with Captain Kirk. Got into Next Generation. My parents got me into Next Generation. Deep Space Nine was the one that really changed the direction of how Star Trek was kind of run, because it got really deep and political, and um, there were people that in the show that they brought back from Next Generation, and um, there were consequences during that show. People, characters were dying that you wouldn't expect to die, and um, of course that spawned another show, and they all like kind of led into each other. Like Next Generation ended, but it it helped launch Deep Space Nine, where you have Picard in a few of those episodes, as he introduces the new commander of this battle station or trade station. Um, and then the same thing with Voyager. Deep Space Nine leads into Voyager, and then that show takes off. And so you have all these other subsequent shows. Enterprise was another one that was really good. It was a prequel. Um, it was the very first starship to go out into space, and man, it was a deep, like, dramatic show. And so I loved it. Loved Scott Bale's character in there. Um, and so after Enterprise, we didn't have anything for a while. Then we got Discovery, and it was very controversial because uh, a lot of people, a lot of old heads will are always look back at Next Generation as being the pinnacle of Star Trek,
Right.
and because it was and all, really all the shows except for Enterprise, they were all 24, 25 episode seasons, and even though you had like storylines, like main storylines in those shows or events in those shows, um, most of the episodes in between those storylines were always about exploration of not just space, but like of people and ideologies. And so when Discovery came out, it had a very clear and concise message that, look, this is, again, it's a prequel, okay, and this takes place before uh, Kirk comes along, um, and it actually takes place like right when the Federation is trying to establish more of a political, excuse me, standing with the Klingons. They're trying to get the Klingons to join the Federation, and the Klingons were all about that. And so there's a war that happens in the first few seasons, and there's a lot of diversity on the show. You have your gay characters on the show. You have your characters who uh, identify certain ways on the show. You have these female leads. Not that we haven't had a female lead before, um, especially with Star Trek Voyager. but you have these female leads now that are in their diverse arena, where you have Captain Giorgio, and then you have Commander Michael, and so there's a lot of controversy because it was very it's action oriented, more action oriented than the other shows. Um, there's a lot of like, I mean, you've seen the first season, so Captain Giorgio gets killed in the first show,
Hmm.
but I'm gonna tell you, keep watching because stuff happens. Michelle Yeoh comes back. In a certain, it gets crazy. So I think people had a problem with it doesn't hold up the spirit of your traditional Star Trek, and I would argue that it actually does. It just does it in a different way. They do more discovery of, again, like the human condition, and they explore more relationships in this type of show and the consequences. And actually, I would say it's even like Next Generation was all about that bridge crew,
Mm.
um, and you had that kind of, you felt like they were a family. Uh, you didn't really feel that in Deep Space Nine. It just felt like work colleagues, which is fine. And it was kind of like that with the rest of the shows. But with Discovery, especially when you'll see it in the later seasons, when the crew actually gets established, okay, it feels like a family. Um, and the struggles that they go through in the show and how they overcome those struggles is amazing. I've seen all the seasons. It's Jen and I is one of our favorite shows ever to watch. We can't wait for this new season to come out. And the shows that they spawned after that with Picard and Strange New Worlds. Picard's on its last season, um, and then Strange New Worlds is really just kicking off. But Strange New Worlds, another great. That's about the Enterprise ship. And so and then Picard this last season is going to be amazing because he brings back everybody from Next Generation,
Mm.
and it looks pretty dope. So uh, I'm obviously excited about Star Trek. I think everybody should watch it. It's not the style and how everything is portrayed is way different from what I watched back in like the late 80s and 90s, and going further. But it's fun, you know. And it's not so much about exploration. I know the title says discovery, um, but it's more about. I mean, these are real world situations. If you ever watched Law and Order, they always, before every episode, they're like, "This is completely fiction. This is based off of whatever event that's happening." Um,
Yep.
and and actually, Discovery is about that. It's based off of everything that's going on. And you'll see, like in the later seasons, Rodney, where there's a clear. There are episodes that are directly related to the pandemic,
Hmm.
and it's not like they don't have their own pandemic, uh, but they're definitely, you're like, oh, this is definitely because of the pandemic.
Hmm.
So it's a really good show. It's very well casted, uh, very well written. I love all the characters in there. There are characters that come and go, that you're like, oh God, I'm so glad that person's gone. And then you're like, oh man, I can't believe that person got killed. Oh my God, I didn't even see that coming. Um, so it's good. It's really good. Um, it's a fun show to watch, and I would say that I only got Paramount Plus to watch this show. I have since then kept it only because it has all the Star Treks on there, so of course I go back to watch all of them. Um, but it's got all the other stuff on there that you wouldn't really expect. It's not a lot of original programming, but the ones that are on there are really good. So like I watch Evil. I don't know if you've seen that one. That's
Evil
about
is the one with Michael Coulter, right?
yes, yeah, a boy
Yes,
from
I've seen a
late
couple of
'80s.
episodes. Yep.
It's
Hmm.
a really good show. Really good show. I think they have it either just ended or they have a new season coming out. I can't remember. Jen and I are kind of behind on that one, but
Mm.
um, it's a really good show about paranormal. And, Coulter plays basically a I don't want to say an exorcist, but he leads like a team of
Yeah.
people that look to either prove or disprove paranormal activity that's related to the Catholic Church.
Hmm.
And so it's really good. And there's like a there's demons in it. It's I don't know. I don't want to go too far. It almost kind of feels like the universe from Keanu Reeves Constantine. That's what it kind of feels like. Because you got these demons who are trying to influence people to do these crazy things.
Yeah.
So yeah, Star Trek Discovery, watch it. It's I didn't think it would last this long, to be honest with you, based off of what you were just saying. Um, but it did, and it's a very high quality show. I'm not
Yeah, I
talking
agree.
like Babylon 5 type of graphics or anything like that, or special effects, or even old school Star Trek, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine effects. This looks like it could be a freaking movie, and it's
Or
a
you can even say
joy.
you can even update it and say the art, because for example, I've watched the art and the art doesn't have a budget, but
Right,
Star Trek does have a phenomenal budget
a
right now.
phenomenal budget. And not even just the way it looks, but the sound is truly amazing.
Costume
So if you've got
design,
a yeah,
because the Klingons look amazing.
they do, they really do. They just it's a great, like, if you got a really good TV, if you got some really good sound system, this is one of those shows to really like highlight what you got, because it just looks great, it sounds great. You turn that volume up, you feel it. um
Hmm.
the like I said, uh the relationship, there are a few people, I don't know how far along you've gotten in it, Rodney, so I won't say anything. uh
Hmm.
but there are, so obviously Michael, she is a very complex character. um
Hmm.
and it only gets even better when the next few seasons come up. And there are relationships that she has in this show, and I'm not talking about like romantic relationships, but there are relationships that she has in this show that are just phenomenal, that you're just like, oh my god, this is awesome. So
Hmm.
she's probably one of my favorites, if not my favorite Star Trek character. And probably, if I were to make a list of favorite fictional characters in TV, I mean, I think she's probably top five, uh, at best. Like, I think she's definitely top five. She's just an amazing person. I can't remember how you pronounced her name, but she knocks it out the park.
Yeah,
She makes it believable. She's a badass in the show, and you feel it. And um, I absolutely love her in this show.
I do too, and I really am excited to see where her trajectory goes after this. Right, I hope she's in another action-packed show because I think she knocked this one out the park. Which, after coming from Walking Dead, I was like, okay, and then of course she did like Space Jam with LeBron James and stuff like that. But this was
Oh, that's
cool
right. She
to.
played LeBron's wife in that, didn't she?
Yep. Hmm.
Yeah.
And so, I hope she ends up in movies or TV, whatever her liking is, because I just think she does whatever she gets in and gets into the role. She does a great part. And I personally, if they ever like rebooted the Bourne series, I would love her to be like a lead character on it, because I
Right.
think she could do something like that, or something to that extent where she plays your assassin slash super spy, whatever. I think that would be kind of fun to see her in. But
I'll tell you real quick. There's
mhm,
another. We talked about Michelle Yeoh earlier. She gets killed in the first season. Um,
mhm,
she does come back, but not as somebody who you would think.
mhm.
And she knocks it out the park. I love Michelle Yeoh. Like,
So do I.
for as
I
old as she is, she's
mhm.
aged very well.
Yep.
And
She
her,
can do a diverse amount of characters as well.
yeah, and I will say, like, when you see her again in the show, I like this person that she portrays in the show rather than the Captain Giorgio
Same,
that
same.
um
I was like, oh man, this woman is. Oh yeah, I won't spoil it, but like, yeah, she. That is the big homie, right? And I
yeah.
don't want to be on her bad side.
No, hell no. Okay, so you've gotten to the point where I think you have, so you know what I'm talking about then. Okay. So yes,
Yeah.
she is just a Um, okay, so I'm thinking about second season, so I understand
Okay,
where you're
so
at
if
now.
there's more to her in the second season, no. The end of the first season when she cut a deal and all that stuff, that's where I got to with her.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So yeah,
So
it gets pretty it gets pretty crazy with her, but like you said, like she's the don't I would be nervous just talking to her.
mhm.
Like, don't say the wrong thing, like
That whole crew, that whole alternate crew terrified me.
crazy, man.
Yeah.
She talking about eating old boy's race, Saru.
Yeah. Yep.
Like,
Yep.
damn. All right.
Mhm.
That's just yeah, it's crazy. So yeah, I am a big fan of that show. It is I've man, I might have to watch it again because it's just that good.
Man, you know what? We might have to watch season 5 as a family and talk about it in
Right,
further
right.
episodes. I don't know when it starts. I think it starts in 2024, but
Okay.
hold on, let me look here real quick. Yeah, early 2024 is the final season, so we got time. But on that note, we are going to end this week. Thank you, as always, for joining us for another episode of the Nation80 podcast. I know sometimes things get infrequent. I can give you the excuse, it's just always something that happens, but it doesn't really matter. We just love when we do get an opportunity to sit down and therapy session, talk about something else other than the stressors of the world. So come join us for another episode of Nation 80 podcast, and we'll talk to you soon. Keep your imagination up. See you on the next one.